Hello everyone, this is Nicole. Happy New Year and welcome to my very first video of 2019. In today's video, I'm going to share how you can easily blend colors when creating cards and coloring the stamped images using a brush markers. This is a part of a brand new release from Altenew, and they just released a brand new watercolor brush marker set called Winter Wonderland. So that is going to be the focus product that I'm going to be featuring in this video. I stamped an outline image 3 times onto a Strathmore 5x7 ready cut watercolor paper. This is a 140-pound cold press watercolor paper, and I stamped 3 times using a permanent black ink from Altenew. So these are part of the markers from the Winter Wonderland set. When they are come in brand new, you will have to take out the yellow ring by twisting the lid or the top portion of the brush marker and remove that yellow ring. Once that is removed, you twist it back, make sure it's connected to the watercolor barrel on the bottom, and you're going to squeeze the watercolor marker a few times. You might have to squeeze a few more times in the very beginning to let that pigment flow. Once that comes out, you will be able to load the pigment pretty easily, and you hardly need a push because the pigments are very concentrated and you only need to squeeze just a little bit to be able to use them. In this one, I am using a watercolor palette from Altenew. This is a medium-sized one, and I laid down a darker color, which is ruby red, and a lighter color, which is rouge. And I'm going to use the rouge marker itself to pick up a darker color of ruby red, and I am going to start coloring in. Because I want the darker shade to be on the bottom, I'm going to start coloring in from the bottom of the petal, where it's going to create that shadow effect from dark to light shade. So you can see that at the bottom portion of the flower, it's more red, and as I go up towards the tip of the petals, you will see that it gets more peachy. That is because when you lay down the color first, the rouge picks up the ruby red, the shade from the palette, and then that lays down first. And this is actually not going to contaminate the brush tip itself, so you can actually be pretty comfortable doing this. And as you lay down the color, the darker shade actually comes off of the brush itself. And these are made with synthetic brushes and to create a feel of using a real brushes. So it has all the benefits of using a real watercolor brushes, except that it's not real, it's just a synthetic, just to create that feel for you. So it's pretty forgiving, very easy to use. So I'm going to kind of speed up and show you the rest of the coloring process. On this first image, I used very little water to blend and spread out the colors. So what I did is, as I laid down the colors first, I went back to the image using a clean water, using a water brush, and I'm using a fine tip water brush from Altenew as well. And I just spread the pigment just a little bit, and you only need a very little water. I wanted this one to be very concentrated, so I used a very little watercolor to also spread it out. The next one I'm going to use, I ended up only coloring 2 of them, but I always like to kind of stamp extra stamp image in case I do mess up anything while I'm coloring. I'm going to add a lot more water so you'll be able to see the intensity of the second flower that I'm coloring right now is very different compared to the first one that I just colored earlier. So you can play with the clean water when using the watercolor brush markers to control the intensity of the color and how you want these to look. Always keep in mind that whether you use these markers or whether you're using watercolor pans or tube watercolors, when watercolor is fully dried, it is going to dry lighter than what you look at it when you're using and working on it on the project. So keep that in mind. You can always go back, but if you're not really sure about the color intensity, make sure you start light and then go back to the image with more colors, and that's always fine. So I'm going to set that aside to dry. While that is drying, I'm going to prep our card base. I have a Nina Solo White 110-pound cardstock, and I took out a jet black ink spray from Ulta New. I'm taking out the spray nozzle itself, and I'm just tapping the end of the spray over the card base, and this is going to create some nice splatter effect. Now that these are fully dried, I'm going to use the coordinating die set. The Build a Flower Poppy set actually has both a stamp and die set that comes together, and you can only get these as a set, not separately. So I like to use the coordinating dies. And you can see that I didn't color in the stem part of the flower. I left it on purpose. I just wanted to have a little bit of whiteness onto the stamped image. So that is all die cutted. I'm going to go ahead and prepare the sentiments by stamping one of the sentiments from the same set onto a black cardstock using embossing ink. I'm going to heat set this using antique gold embossing powder. I thought adding a bit of black and gold would be a great contrast to our pink and peachy colored flowers. So I'm going to go ahead and put the cards together now. I'm going to put 2 petals kind of on top of each other, overlapping a little bit as well. One sticking out a little bit higher and the other one sticking out a little bit lower. I'll be using some foam tapes as well to adhere these and pop these out. So we're going to adhere them towards the center right portion of the card. I like to kind of offset when I have a sentiment to put on top of it as well. The sentiment will go right on top of the lower flower, just a bit of overlapping going on, and I'm going to trim it once the foam tape is all done. I like to measure and make it straight by putting my card base onto my work mat where there's lines and grid lines, and then adhere the sentiment. That kind of gives you a nice straight adhere sentiment, which is really important when it comes to a craftsmanship of your card. We want everything to look pretty nice when it's all finished. I'm going to trim off the card, the sticking out excess sentiment strips. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some final touch. I have the antique gold ink shimmer spray from Ulta New. I took out part of the pigment by using some spoid, and I laid it onto a watercolor palette. I picked it up using a water brush, and I added a gold color onto the center of the flower. And that finishes today's card. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Your thumbs ups and comments are very, very appreciative, so I hope to see more of that in the year. If you're interested in any of the products that I use in today's video, please click the description box right below the video, or you can also go to my website at scrapsandstamps.com to get more details on product giveaways and close-up photos of the projects. Thank you so much for watching and joining me today, and I will see you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.